basically you're no good if you had sex before marriage, whether that was abuse or whether that was consensual. And there's so much shame in purity culture surrounding this subject. Attraction happens naturally. It's not something that we necessarily can always choose. As humans, we are attracted to beauty. And noticing beauty is not bad. Noticing beauty is normal. It's good. Lust is something different.
Today in this episode, we're going to be basically uncovering a lot of the punishment, the religious punishment we experience for our natural sexuality. And we're going to break that down into a lot of lies and beliefs that were really harmful and damaging. So we hope this is shame reducing and clarifying for those of you who can relate. Hey guys, it's Angela with the Angela Rose Show, where we unveil stories of religious abuse. Today is a little different. Instead of doing a guest story, we're having a mutual conversation. And welcome back to the podcast, Anne.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here again.
This is going to be fun. Just a conversation about the good old days. And Anne and I both were raised Mennonite. So today we're really going to dive into a conversation about our experiences, specifically in the Mennonite culture, around toxic sexuality, impact, which goes on and on. I swear we could talk for days. This is a subject we're both passionate about. I do want to say that I think this subject is, even though we originate from the Mennonites and we have a lot of interesting things to say about our experiences with toxic sexuality teachings in our culture, I believe this episode is going to relate to people from any background. I do believe that sex is a subject that is so taboo, and there are so many needed conversations around it. So I think this conversation, no matter what religion you come from, what community you come from, I really think that you're going to hear something in this episode that's going to be really relatable, meaningful, shame reduction, and really inspiring.
Yeah, that's my hope. I mean, I'm super excited. I think too what you said about, there's a lot of people who relate to this more than just in the Amish and Mennonites.
Yeah.
It's evangelical churches got taught the purity culture stuff too. So
the purity culture thing, girl. It is it is such a thing in religious spaces, and that's the negative impact of purity culture. Don't you think just some of our more insular plain communities took it to another level?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So we're going to start with the post that I did on Facebook a couple weeks ago. I did a post, and I just invited former plain community members to share experiences and things, crazy things that we were told about sexuality. And I did an example that, in the community that I come from, an example was that we had to have our Mennonite dress sleeves below the elbow because they said the elbows look like boobs and they need to be covered.
Yeah.
So, girl, that post went crazy.
I couldn't believe the amount of comments. And honestly, it was kind of funny to me because it felt like there were more comments than even likes.
Yes.
Which cracks me up. Like,
there was a couple hundred. I think it's 300 or 400.
I think it's almost 500 comments.
Is it?
I
haven't even looked at it for days.
It's a lot of comments on that post.
But like it shook me up. Like, because when I posted it, I didn't think anybody would I figured, a couple people might have something to say, but like it went crazy. It reached over 100,000 people within a week.
Yes.
And what did you see in those comments show up again and again from your perspective?
It just felt like it resonated with a lot of people because, like, I think growing up in that culture, we sometimes don't. I think people think that, it's not that bad. Like, the sexualization, the way things are, it's not really that bad. But once you really start to boil it down, there was a lot of people who actually felt very heard with that.
Yeah.
And felt safe enough to speak out about their experiences. And I think that was beautiful to watch that.
Wow. So you're just saying like so much of it can be minimized, and yet in reality, when you read down through there and hear the stories of so many survivors of the impact of these teachings that are so often covert.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into that.
Mhm.
But the covert teachings were just stronger than you realize, and then you start hearing the stories and it starts to drive home the reality
Yeah.
of the way that we were programmed.
Yeah.
But I want to say this before we dive in. That is what's really important to me. Not only did it reflect the need to be able to say, I just really seen the desire within that thread to really just be the freedom to say
Yeah.
what you were told.
Mhm.
And it's not judgment, it's not shame, but this is what happened to me. This is what my mom told me about sex. This is what my preacher said I had to do. This is what he said about sex. And that, I think the ability to express it, the impact is great. We know that.
Yeah.
We've never forgotten what we were told. But there's such a need to be able to just say, this is what it was. And then when you read it, it's like, I think when you read it after you share something like that with others, it helps you to see how serious it was. When you see other people respond to it,
Correct.
you're not alone, which reduces the shame. I wasn't crazy. Maybe it was abusive, you know?
Mhm.
And today, I really want you guys, those of you, just settle in, get yourself a cup of coffee, because this is going to be a day. Make
Sure
yourself
is.
comfortable for this episode, because we have a lot to say, and I really want you to comment during this episode as we bring all these concepts out. I want you to feel free to say it too.
Yes.
We're going to say it, but you are invited to let it out too. If you have emotions and feelings around the experiences you had and the harm and things you were told that were insane, quite frankly, comment it. We want you to feel free to be able to express it for what it was. And this space is exactly what self-expression is vital for recovery.
Absolutely. And I think the shame, like, I think of shame as kind of a snake, right? And I just felt like the shame was like slithering away
Okay.
in that post.
Yes.
And I hope
it was just
this-
going away
it was
because
just-
everything truthful was just
Correct.
right there.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that. I feel like that way about this episode
Yes.
too. Is just that, but I just feel the shame just like slithering away
I love that. Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
not supposed to be shameful,
No.
and there's so much shame and purity culture surrounding this subject. Like we'll talk about that, but like,
Yes.
there's just so much shame.
Wow. That brought me to one thing I wanted to say that kind of hit me this morning, and I wasn't planning to say this, but as I was getting dressed this morning, I was playing some of my sassy songs, some of my favorite, like get in the mood.
I played some of those on the way.
Did you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
was
did.
playing
Some of the
my
same ones,
yeah.
probably.
And part of like my work in recovery is being able to be authentic again after coming from a culture where that was not allowed. It wasn't safe, and I suppressed so much of my feminine,
Yes,
true nature. And that a huge part of my recovery has been to just be me, right? And this morning I was playing a song. I was getting dressed, you know, again making myself beautiful, which was not allowed as a Mennonite girl, right? How dare you be vain? So I was doing my hair, I was playing my song, and I looked in the mirror and I seen a reflection of little Angela. And I was like, I just seen a smirk on her face. And I was like, my adult self was like, I see you.
Yeah.
I got you, girl.
Yep.
You can say it now. You're safe to say it.
Yeah.
You can say what you couldn't say then.
Yeah.
And I went from like feeling all like energetic with my music to like instant tears. Like I was just like, I got your back, girl. And today that's my heartbeat, is that our experiences when we were kids, that we could feel seen.
Yes.
And that all the men and women watching that your younger, the boy version and young girl version of you would feel like you have their back. Because that's what was missing for so many of us.
Absolutely. I really hope that this episode is shame reducing for both men and women.
Yes.
That's my goal. Like, that's my passion, is that it's shame reducing for both genders. We talk a lot about purity culture and how it hurts women, but I feel like purity cultures also hurt men.
Absolutely.
And so I just want it to be shame reducing and authentic, and that you feel seen and heard.
I really like how you mentioned that purity culture. I feel like there's a lot of voices with women around that, but there's not a lot of. I just don't feel like there's a lot of conversations with the men included in that, because I believe that these harmful teachings impacted men and women both.
Yes,
different ways, different stories to tell, but none of us escaped the impact.
No. Absolutely not. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know, like, I can't say, purity culture hurt women more than men or men more than women, but like the amount of trauma and pain and shame that both genders have from the teachings of purity culture, it's a lot to unravel. Yeah. And I hope that people listening can unravel some of that as they listen. Like, I hope that it makes you curious.
Yes. So let's get started. We're going to start out with ignorance is not bliss. I don't know when that became a thing. Ignorance is bliss.
I don't know, but when it comes to sex, it sure is not.
No kidding.
It sure is not.
Well, that's the thing I keep seeing come up, because I did a post again yesterday, prepping before this on the Facebook page on just what we're going to talk about today. And again, it keeps coming up. The conversation is no one ever told me about sex.
Yes.
And that's why we're here to talk today, because we've seen the damage and the pain and the heartache that comes out of the silence. So before we go any further, Anne, let's define what purity culture looks like for those who have never heard of it.
So I think purity culture can be defined as the belief system that you wait till marriage for sex. And it often has this modesty messaging in it, where women are kind of put at the forefront of that. They need to be modest so that men don't lust, because that's just how men are. So it's based on what I would believe is a lot of lies,
absolutely,
surrounding sex. But I think, I don't know for sure where purity culture came out of, but I feel like I think in the beginning, or it might have came out of a good heart.
Sure.
To try to protect. I think it came out of the 70s, like the hippie culture thing, where, people are worried about all the, sexual stuff going on, and they're trying to protect their kids from that. And so they're reacting, right? It's this whole reaction.
So I hear fear.
Yeah.
Because there's so much fear in it. Yeah.
There is.
And the gender roles. Isn't there a lot of confusion with that, and a lot of pressure and expectation?
Right. Men and women have very different roles, purity culture would believe.
Yeah. Purity culture, in short, is terrified of sex and obsessed with sex.
Yes.
What else did you want to say about that?
Well, I think that's 100% true. There's fear. I think also that a person's worth is tied to if they are a virgin when they get married, especially for women. There was all kinds of messaging about that. Basically, you're no good if you had sex before marriage, whether that was abuse or whether that was consensual.
The amount of devastating statements that have been made around that, and the judgment, the shame, and the fear, it just goes on and on. Yeah. So we're going to dive a little deeper into that today. Yeah. Let's just pull up some of the comments on the post, and we'll just talk a little bit about that. I think the story examples really show the ignorance for what it was in our culture.
Absolutely.
So here's one of the comments under the post of toxic sexuality teachings. This one says, "My knees, ankles, collarbones, and my lips were absolutely sinful. My eyes were a no-go. They were too seductive and stormy. Oh, I remember that.
Me too.
Um,
I think it's just crazy that even just normal things like lips and what did she say, collarbones and all the normal stuff, elbows, ankles, like those things are normal things. And for people who say that they believe that God created them, it's wild that if you believe that, then you would say that those things are in and of themselves inherently evil.
wow. Yeah. When you really look at it, it to me, like when I think about that, like some of the stuff that we literally believed as little girls, because a lot of this stuff in these comments, I heard them. Like a lot of them, couple might have been new to me, but most of it came through my community too.
Yep.
And I know to your average person who weren't raised Mennonite, I think probably some of this stuff is maybe the first time you hear something like that. But in our community, most of us get it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for me, like, I look back and I'm devastated that so many things that you're born with, just naturally born with, are shamed, and you have to be there's this attitude like you need to be afraid of it. It's bad, it's shameful, and you learn to hate yourself.
The self-hatred.
It's so sad.
The self-hatred that it happens in those communities, especially for girls, is the amount of self-hatred. It's devastating.
I mean,
what's so real?
What are you going to do when you're told the look in your eyes is seductive?
What are you going to do when you're told your lips are seductive? You can't change that. None of that stuff is stuff you can change about yourself.
What do you do with that kind of information? It's complete abuse. Emotional abuse is when your goodness is used against you. And that is verbal, emotional, and spiritual abuse, because this is coming from, like, God says, and you add God into the mix of why your eyes are stormy and you have the Jezebel spirit. And I mean, the terror upon us teenagers was horrible. Here's another one. I was told wearing my hair down and uncovered would make men lust after me. Oh my God.
I got told that too.
Same.
Yeah. That's a very common idea that, like, someone's hair being down is gonna cause men to lust. Again, it's all about keeping men from lusting. That's purity culture's whole like thing that they teach.
That comes back to, like, the weight we carried. Like, it was all, we were responsible for men's purity.
Yeah.
And everything we wore was
and the
controlled, completely
the amount of anxiety that we had as girls growing up in that culture it's so high. I mean, when you're told that your own your body, stuff you can't even help, your lips, your collarbone, all that makes men lust. It's just, you want to hide because that's not even, there's nothing you can do about that kind of stuff.
What do you do with it? Again, this brings me to another one here, and the comment says, averting my eyes when a man walked by. And that comes back to, like, what do you do with all this stuff we were told to do with ourselves for just existing? And then, like, that brought the fear and shame, so we were averting our eyes, and that is a big subject. This one says, I'm sorry.
Hey, you have to laugh.
Like, I can't even believe the amount of, like, averting we had to do, both male and female, because this is a female who said she had to avert her eyes when a man walked by.
Right. But
the men were programmed, because I remember, like, the little boys are taught to avert their eyes from us from the time they're 2 years old. And it says, here's her comment, she was told to walk shamefacedly and with her eyes downcast to show the men the proper respect and not act like a temptress.
Yeah.
And
like the again, I almost have no words for how just messed up some of this stuff is, because again, you're teaching girls that their bodies are evil and dangerous. But you're also simultaneously teaching that they were created by God.
That's the part that probably gets me the most, or like emotionally activated is when you, so we can talk about the toxic, but when you add like the name of God in this perverted mix of teachings, that's the thing that's so tragic.
Yeah.
Because we're told on Sunday mornings all these things about holiness and the holiness of God, and God made our bodies and we're the temple of the living God. But then at home, we're told to keep our heads down and walk shamefaced and hide that temple because it's such a darn temptation.
Yeah. And I think too, the whole thing of women being under man comes into play here too. Because like, obviously a lot of people would never say that, that men are over women and that they have like, and that women are slaves or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
But this thing of like women belonging to men comes into play in purity culture quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Like the underlying belief system is still there.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're telling girls they have to show the proper respect.
Yeah.
To men. And because why? Like,
I just hear entitlement again, and there's so much entitlement in the culture. Like, we are groomed from baby up with that entitled attitude of what is owed to us.
Well, and girls are groomed from little up too to be submissive. From little tiny babies up.
Yeah. It's so complex, Anne.
It is.
There's so many teachings, and we won't be able to dive into.
No.
We're going to be scratching the surface of it today. And this is what's neat is this conversation. We can continue carrying this conversation in the future beyond this episode. It's going to take, I would say, a year's worth of episodes to really even begin to start to scratch the surface of some of these ideologies and how deep it goes.
Yeah.
But today we're just going to get that conversation started, which I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
I know earlier you said this is a conversation we're really for both genders.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit here about what we've seen impact the men and the boys in purity culture and just the devastating harm that happened to them as well.
Yes.
And the misunderstanding, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. You know, when we women talk about our experiences in purity culture, I think there's a misunderstanding that there's a label that often happens. What do they say about that?
Oh, well, they think that we're feminists who hate men.
Yeah.
Which cracks me up because
there's often that terminology.
That's not true.
Yeah.
And purity culture did not just hurt girls, it hurt boys, it hurt men a lot. And I think that I hope that this podcast today helps men feel heard and seen because I think that there's a lot of shame surrounding that. And I just do not think there needs to be.
Wow. What do you see and like, let's talk a little bit about what the messaging was for the young boys in our culture. What was some of the messaging that happened that was so wrong on projected onto them?
Well, when you tell little boys that they're just always, that they grow up and they're always going to struggle with lust, you set them up for failure from the get-go. They're expected to struggle with lust. There's books like Every Man's Battle. And it's almost this thing of like, if you don't struggle with lust, then you're gay or you're not actually a man or you're not actually a boy. Like, lust is seen as a man's problem.
So I feel like there's pressure. When you said that, I feel a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then I felt an instant label because if I'm not what a man is supposed to be, like, then I'm going to be labeled.
Right.
That's devastating.
And it's like both ways there's labels because on one end, there's this label of like, you're a sexual beast and that's how you were made. Like, again, they're connecting this thing of like, God made us this way. Like, we can't help that God made us.
So negative.
Yeah. Wow. So there's this God thing that's connected with it. It's so devastating to boys. You're literally setting them up for failure.
Well, and that brings me to one of the comments. One of the young men commented on that thread. It was wonderful to hear from the men that shared. There was a lot of...
I was surprised.
Yes, because there's stories. And again, there's so much shame around it. So I just can't imagine the loneliness, you know. It's just... the conversations need to be had, and that's why we're having them today. But the one comment was around, like, my experience was because I was born a male, I was automatically going to be a predator.
Yes.
And that crushed me. And it didn't surprise me because that attitude I felt in my community, and I felt that attitude around the men. The
100%.
negative attitude that because you're a boy, you're just going to have a dirty mind. And that to me is, wow.
And then they're punished when they do.
That is so sad.
And then they're punished when they do.
Oh, so that brings me to more stories that I witnessed. And I have to tell one example because I don't know how else we can explain the reality of how a young boy is also conditioned in our culture. And we're going to talk about the girls' conditioning, but the one example would be, let's say, a 4 or 5-year-old, could be younger, 2, 3-year-old toddler boy is discovering his body. And I know different story examples where if the mom would find him discovering himself in the bathtub, he would be spanked, which spanking is a big thing. We're not going to get into that today, but it's a huge obsession in our culture. Well, he would be physically punished and physically abused in the name of spanking if he was caught. And I say caught because of the fear and the terror of sexual body anatomy. He would be caught simply physically discovering himself, which is completely healthy, natural, and normal for a little boy or a girl to do. But if mom would catch you in the bathtub doing and discovering anything in regards to your own body, you would be physically punished. And let's think for a minute on what that does to a 4-year-old boy's brain about himself.
Well, I feel like it makes them feel like they're dangerous and that their bodies are bad. Again, kind of the same messaging girls have to a degree, just differently.
Exactly. Right.
And like,
it makes you really afraid of yourself.
Right.
Because if you're scolded and punished for touching your own body, like, again, it's kind of like we said earlier, the terror of like having a collarbone or looking in the mirror and seeing stormy eyes. Like, it's the same idea. Like, okay, I have a penis. Now I cannot touch that because it is considered a bad thing. That is the message. Which is creating fear and terror around a very good and healthy part of your sexuality you were born with. Like, what do you do with that abuse?
And it definitely is abuse.
It is.
It's very abusive. And again, think about it like from the adult perspective, it's based on fear.
Terror. I have seen so much terror around it, like insane. So, is there anything more? Like,
I would say along with that, just for more context about how this looks, there is a lot of churches where we grew up in, they do not go to the public beaches.
Yes.
And the reasoning for that is because their boys and men are going to see girls in bikinis. And I have a story about that.
Okay.
I had a birthday party for my turning 8-year-old son. We went to a beach, and I had invited some of our former Mennonite friends.
Sure.
Because he had friends in the Mennonite culture we just left.
Right.
And some of the boys were not allowed to come to that birthday party because it was at a public beach. And I just, like, it blows my brain because, again, what message are you sending to your kids? Whenever little 8-year-old boys go to the beach, they see sand and water.
Absolutely.
They don't see women.
Right. But in the culture, they are told to see it.
Right.
But they're told not to, but it becomes an obsession.
Right.
The elephant in the room becomes.
Right. And I think that, like, when something's normalized, it's not so much of an obsession.
Absolutely.
Right? So, whenever you tell 8-year-old boys that we can't go to this birthday party because it's a beach and we can't go because there's nudity, well, you're teaching them that they're going to have a problem with that.
Right.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, this brings different thoughts to my mind. I know, depending the church and family you're from within these plain communities, there's different levels of like the rules.
Right.
Each
Right.
community and family
Yes.
has different specific things that goes on. But I know the one conservative Mennonite community I come from, what is very common, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what you share about like the programming with the young boys specifically, is the there's like a, if the boy is about 10 or 11, it's common for a mother to stop giving him hugs
Yeah.
because he might be old enough to be aware of her breasts.
Yeah.
And so she will withhold affection
Yep.
and hugs to her son because of her sexuality. And that just kills me. Like I have 2 boys and I hug the tar out of, I just like, I love hugs. I'm a
Yes.
hugger. And
Yes.
I just imagine squeezing them tight until they're in their 80s, like
Right.
that is just, as a mother and as a
Yes.
hugger and a nurturer,
Yes.
I I love that.
Absolutely.
I cannot help it. I'm a hugger, and that breaks my soul is again in our cultures, like and it does come back to the women. I know in that same belief is once your daughter starts going, it's about the age of puberty,
Right.
is when you're supposed to stop hugging your boys and girls,
Yes.
and the men, the fathers, must withhold hugging their daughter as soon as she starts going through puberty.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
horrific to me.
It
It
is.
really is horrific.
It really
And
is.
I remember one incident where a girl was devastated by that fact that she wasn't going to get hugs from her daddy anymore.
That almost makes me cry.
What do you do with that? Now my daddy can't hug me because I'm becoming a woman. Like, that is so sad.
I think in some of these churches that like any kind of physical touch is not okay. At least in the home I grew up in, like,
Oh my.
I remember I was 19 when I remember my dad's first hug.
Wow.
And like my kids, when I tell them that, they freak out. They're like, what?
This is so foreign.
One of my kids said, how did you survive?
Oh.
I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, you can't imagine not having physical touch from a parent.
This is so healthy.
Yeah.
Like what
Right.
but what we came from, we didn't think much of it. I know for me, looking back, these were just normal things.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I reflect it the most with my sons. Like,
yes,
just the freedom they have in who they are as boys, and their sexuality. They don't think nothing of it. No. And I when I see that, it heals me up, because, and it also angers me. Yeah. Because I'll be like, are you kidding me? Like, I'll look back.
Do you ever like get a little jealous of your sons?
Well, just the being freedom.
Yes.
No, I see such a innocence and a freedom and an unashamed boldness, and I'm just like, that's the way it was supposed to be. Yeah. So, let's dive into some of the key conditionings that little girls experience in our culture.
So for girls, it's this thing of, you're responsible for men's behavior, because they can't help it. They are just wired to struggle with lust. So it's your job as a girl to like help them stay pure. Wow. And as we talked about a little bit before, that's a lot of anxiety. That's a lot to carry for any woman, let alone little girls. And we're taught this from little up. Mm-hmm. Like, this is something that it happens when you are small. You're taught to keep your dress down, like as a toddler. What are some other examples of this? Like, it's all throughout the culture.
It's so thick.
Yeah,
it's such a part of my upbringing, and that, like, I almost can't even. There's so many examples. I'm having a hard time narrowing down which one to even put into words, because, again, this is how we were raised. It's all we knew. And as a little girl, you just know. You just
Yeah.
know. You know what to do and what not to do. Like, keep that dress down. Keep that head down.
Don't be too loud.
Keep your mouth shut.
Like, as somebody who
Ah.
is outgoing to a degree, like,
Yes.
you were supposed to have a meek and quiet spirit.
Meek and quiet and humble and
Like,
shamefaced.
do not make ripples.
Like, it's like shame. And this is what's so crazy to me is, like, we know that shame is not who we are.
Right.
And yet in our culture, it is implied that to be shameful and shamefaced is next to holiness.
Oh, absolutely.
What is that? Like, that is a total mindfuck.
You aren't supposed to be yourself. You're supposed to be in a box. And if you don't fit in the box, you're like seen as bad and evil and dangerous.
This is when it gets so complex, because, like, all I can think of is, like, the shame and all of the expectations of basically hide who you are, hide who you're to be, whether you're male or female. This is a shame.
Yes.
Your born desires shame. The thoughts, desires, your heart, shame. Like, God says that we need to live this way. That spiritual and emotional abuse is very much wrapped into the sexuality abuse.
Absolutely.
And we can't really separate it because it's all intertwined.
Yes.
And the shame, I think the part I really is clearly devastating is the fact that, like, shame is considered righteous.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah. And the messaging that boys and girls received from purity culture, neither of those messages for both boys and girls honors the humanity of each gender.
Mm-mm. There's no individuality in it.
No, and there's no, like, we're taught literally that to dehumanize each other.
Right. Because when you hold the other gender responsible for your individuality, you don't have individuality anymore.
Right.
And I see that reflected back and forth. We can get into some examples. Little girls are responsible for adult men.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the vice versa? Like, that's not even possible, and it strips you of individuality.
Yeah.
And individuality is our birthright.
Mm-hmm. And it's how we heal. It's how we move from shame to authenticity.
Wow. And that's what we're here to model, is who we really are in versus what we were told to be.
Yeah.
So let's just give some more examples of the mindsets and the strong conditionings. It came up for me, the memories of like Song of Solomon's.
Mm-hmm.
In Song of Solomon, there's different verses that refer to, like, your breasts and making love and different things. And oh my gosh, when you are in the Mennonite culture, Song of Solomon's is like finding your first porn magazine.
Yeah, for real.
It is like, oh my gosh.
Some people, I think, they don't even let their kids read Song of Solomon.
That's what I was going to get to.
Right?
Absolutely. There are very common stories in our culture where if your Song of Solomon's is either ripped out of the Bible, or your mama or dad got some big black magic marker and erased the word breast and love and kisses and all the things, because that is the devil.
Yeah.
This is the Bible.
It's in there. That's what I can say. But
that, again, like, it's I'm laughing, but it's so devastating again, because what it does, it brings so much shame and so much fear. And honestly, when you're 6 years old, 10 years old, and there's a magic marker, you naturally want to know what's underneath it.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just the Bible. Like, think about things. I'm thinking things like encyclopedias, dictionaries. Like, some of those words were, like, literally markered out.
Markered out, just gone.
Yeah.
You can't see it.
No.
It is erased.
And some of us, like, we really didn't get any kind of sex education until basically the week of our wedding, basically.
We could dive into so
We could go into that, but
you say you had some examples of like
yeah. So somebody I know and love, you know, for her, even just thing of going on Pinterest to look at something that's completely normal. She was looking at, I don't know what, she was looking at something in Pinterest, and her mom walked by and saw an ad with a girl in a bikini.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically accused her teen girl of looking at that ad. Whenever she didn't even notice it. Like, the teen girl wasn't looking for that, right?
She didn't even see it. And her mom brought it to attention.
Correct.
This example is profound
It's so sad, but
this
it's
is
true.
such a conditioning thing. So many of us were just doing our thing until they made it.
Right.
Like attention issue.
Billboards.
They made it to be an issue.
Billboards. Like, oh, don't look at that.
Yes.
That has when you're doing that, you're literally drawing attention. And you're teaching your kids that you're basically teaching them to lust. I mean, let's be honest. That's like that. It's very much a conditioning. It's a brainwash.
It's objectification,
yes.
And objectification is an obsession.
Yeah.
I have so much to say about that. And,
yes.
And it brings me to this was another thing. Wives and mothers their job was to monitor what came through the mail.
Yes.
So their husband and their sons wouldn't see women. Right, because they're that's a threat, that's a danger, that's a temptation. And again, women's bodies are like the forbidden fruit, and it's an obsession. And I mean, stories of just random Reader's Digest, and there's a pretty lady, and I mean, mamas are magic markering that woman out of the magazine.
Or cutting it out.
They cut them, marker them.
Like cut them out.
That is a huge part of the conditioning in our cultures, is to monitor and micromanage any feminine beauty, confidence coming in the mail is erased. And to me, looking back, again, I grew up I was used to it. It was just women were dangerous and tempting. But looking back, like as a woman today, and the freedom I have found to self-express and to embrace my feminine beauty, when I think about the days where we had to watch our mothers cut other women out of a magazine, what that does is really, I can't even find words for that. Because recently I was processing these things, and it was done so that the boys wouldn't see. Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, objectification it's erasing. Yeah. It's erasing a woman. Like, she is a woman with value. She's a human being with a heart, mind, and soul, and you are cutting her out of a magazine so your children learn to not look at her. What does that teach a child about humans? Like, we learn what we witness. Yeah. And so no wonder so many of us felt so erased and invisible as children. Yeah. It was just normalized.
We weren't supposed to be seen.
Yeah. That's pretty scary when I think about that. Like, what kind of message does that send to a child? Again, it's kind of normal to me growing up, that fear and that shame and that terror of, like, those worldly women.
Yeah. Confidence is sexy, okay? And it feels like you're not allowed to be confident. You're supposed to be small.
Absolutely.
And if you're too confident, they somehow find a way to push you down.
Absolutely. And I know you experienced a lot of that.
Yeah.
And you
do too. You have too. But like, it's just how it is in that culture.
Yeah, it is.
You're pushed down. Yeah. You are abused until you are quiet.
You're labeled when you show up anything remotely with visibility.
Oh yeah.
So if you become shamefaced and keep it keep yourself hidden and small and humble and righteous.
Yeah.
If you step out of the lines, that is when we have labels like she's being promiscuous, she's got stormy, flirty
She's got
eyes,
Jezebel spirit.
she's too friendly with the men, and it just goes on and on.
Boy crazy.
Boy crazy. I was
That was
told.
all my.
Were you boy crazy too?
Oh my gosh.
And I literally,
What is it about?
all I had to do was just hit the volleyball, and I was boy crazy. I mean, and it hurt.
You
me.
weren't even
Like,
you
I'm
weren't even allowed to
laughing,
talk to a boy.
But like, I could not even hit the volleyball, and I was flirting. Like that, I felt so misunderstood.
Yeah.
Because I'm outgoing,
Yes.
as you are. I was just doing me.
Yeah.
And doing you is labeled.
Yeah. I mean, so because like if you have too many reactions, then you're labeled as flirty. Like you got labeled flirty without even
just
trying,
emotions,
for just literally being yourself.
Again, which is a form of emotional abuse that is
It's so
devastating because it makes you question. When emotional abuse makes you question yourself,
Yeah.
right? You question
Yeah.
like, oh, because like so when when there's a projection against you just being you,
Right.
that's when it dismantles your identity
Mhm.
from the inside out. Like you start to be like, oh wait, what?
Yeah.
And you question, and you start to question yourself, and you question yourself, and then when some of that deep suppression started with me as a young girl, like
And to be fair, those kinds of comments were not from peers; they were from adults older than you.
absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
So again, in that culture,
Mhm.
adults know best, right? So it's just.
I mean, you're taught from two up to
right.
You
But we're not
obey.
talking about this. You're a flirt comments coming from peers.
That's right.
We're talking about them coming from people that are over us.
That's a good point. Very good point. So let's talk about the lust. Everything was kind of considered lust.
Yeah.
But where does healthy attraction come in? And we didn't have that.
Right.
That was not honestly, I don't think I ever heard of attraction growing up. Everything was lust, labeled lust.
Yeah.
And today we know there's a difference between lust and attraction. Tell us about that.
Okay, so lust and attraction are very different things. And I think that attraction is something that we can't necessarily always help what we're attracted to, right? Or like what kinds of things we're attracted to. Attraction was not talked about at all, like you said.
Yeah.
And lust is different than attraction. Attraction happens naturally. It's not something that we necessarily can always choose. Like it's natural. It happens naturally. But lust is something we can choose, right?
Yeah.
And so just being attracted to something or somebody, like beauty is good. We're attracted to beauty. As humans, we are attracted to beauty.
Absolutely.
And noticing beauty is not bad. Noticing beauty is normal. It's good. Lust is something different. Lust is a choice. Yes. And it's more like this possessiveness of like, I need to have this and I need to have it now.
Okay.
So it's different
It's more demanding.
Yes. I like that word.
This is really helpful to verbalize because I know that in the culture we come from, there was no defining of it. Everything was labeled as lust, and your natural attraction to beauty was considered evil.
Oh,
and that was a huge problem. It's a huge part of the problem of the incredible pain and heartache and shame we carried growing up, boys and girls.
Oh yeah, both of us.
I remember the incredible weight of guilt for having complete natural attraction to so many things because of the teachings that we had. And now looking back, just being free from those ideologies and just being me today, I'm devastated again by what I was repenting for. That was completely not repentant. Like there was no reason to repent. But I was such a conscientious little girl and I didn't want to be sinning. And I was so brainwashed that things were sin that weren't.
Yeah.
I was repenting of mind-numbing things.
I know.
But we got to get into some of the details of this.
We do have to get into some of that.
Where do we start? What's an example? I mean, I think of just teenagers and some of the, just our natural I don't know, this would be a good time to talk about the taboo obsession with masturbation.
Sure, we can get into that.
But as I think of a teenager, I think of like just again in our culture, masturbation was considered sin and lust. Again, everything was black and white.
Yes.
When in reality, self-pleasure and discovering who we are is completely healthy and normal and good. We're created for pleasure and our bodies are good. That conversation did not exist.
No.
And so in our culture specifically, the amount of lack of conversation is insane, but it also intrigues me how the adults would show up when they needed to around certain things, and it became a huge conversation.
Yes.
So
yeah,
let's give an example. I know for like masturbation, it was very common to be harassed and micromanaged. If you are going through puberty and you discover your body, your parent would begin in our Mennonite culture, the parents would often, I know it was common for like moms to take care of like checking on the daughter.
right.
And the dads would make sure the son isn't masturbating.
Yep.
And I mean, you would sit down once a week or have your daily, weekly check-in, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Have you masturbated?
Yeah, this was pretty normal.
Have you masturbated? And if you did, I mean, scolded, reprimanded, punished, whatever.
Like some people, I think even, stood in front of church and confessed moral failure.
Absolutely. Like this is considered a sin.
Yeah.
And shame.
Yep.
And I mean, who wants to sit and be harassed like that about your personal agency? It's another form of invasive abuse on your individuality, something that's good and right about you.
Right.
Being stripped from you.
Mm-hmm.
And how awkward and terrifying to have to know in your body with anxiety of like, oh, shoot, dad's going to be taking me out and asking me did I masturbate recently? And moms would do it too. Like, hey, don't touch yourself. It's just, it was considered a terrible act.
But I think that, again, that comes back to this thing of bodies being dangerous and evil. Because if you believe that your body is good and that your sexuality is good, then self-pleasure should be okay.
Absolutely.
You're not hurting anyone else.
Completely normal.
Right. You're not hurting anyone else.
Your body was made to feel good in those areas. It's how we were designed.
Right. And like sexual release is a thing.
Right. It's a natural part of our anatomy.
Right.
And again, we are being punished and rebuked and publicly shamed often.
Yes, publicly shamed.
I mean, if you were caught in any acts of self-discovery, it was often taken to the church.
Oh,
as a moral failure.
Yeah, especially if you were a church member.
Yes. Which in the public humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
Which also sends messages to the others to not ever be dare caught doing such things.
Yeah.
Because they will have to could potentially stand up and repent of moral failure too, which also creates a lot of good liars.
This is very true.
Because
you get good at hiding.
You get really good at secrecy and lying like crazy. No one's going to be one stand in front of the church.
No.
And the cycle goes on.
Yeah. So one thing that's really helped me is to understand that attraction is not the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the enemy. And I can't necessarily help who I'm attracted to or what I'm attracted to, but I can, my behavior after that is my responsibility. But I think too
that gives agency of choice.
Yes,
which sounds so inviting.
It's so much better than what we grew up with.
Yeah,
with the shame.
Like I can observe and be attracted to beautiful people, both genders. Unashamedly attracted and noticed because we see it.
Yes.
So why would we pretend we don't?
Right.
And yet I get to choose my choices.
Yeah.
Which brings us agency.
Absolutely.
And yet we were taught we are completely out of control of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That we have zero self-control because we are just born crooked.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Basically, other people have control over us. We don't.
Wow, what a difference. That brings me to a memory I know for like the opposite sex, like in our culture, no hugging, no. If you're a married woman, I mean, forbid you talk to another man, right?
Oh no.
And I mean, I was a kid.
I know.
I was a young girl, and I was
Yes.
getting googly eyes if I was chatting with a married man.
Yeah.
The woman would look at me like,
Stay away from my husband.
Stay away from my husband. I'm just like this freaking teenager just talking about spilled milk with someone. And I'm like, ooh, did I like,
Yeah.
why is she giving me the eyes? Like, that's how it was.
Yeah.
So it was programmed early on, like, ooh, stay away from married men. That wasn't new news to me. I got married, left the culture as we were at a church service. I think it was Mother's Day. And I never forgot this. And it was, I think it stood out to me because of that, the amount of fear anxiety I had to carry and just talking to a man growing up. And if you grew up in our cultures, you understand how like you simply, I mean, we sat in church on separate men on one side, women on the other side. I mean, boys and teenagers hang out, the boys in one area and girls, like you just didn't do a lot of gender connection. It was, if you did talk to a boy, you would be labeled boy crazy. So who wants to be labeled, right?
Right.
So you had to pretty much be in secret if you did have a boyfriend. All that to say, I got married, left, and I've always been a very outgoing, chat with everyone. So I kind of, I think was, constantly crossing those lines. The lines that I was raised under just never fit me and the authentic me. I could never contain myself. But the one Sunday we were going to a church service, it was Mother's Day, and I was wearing a pretty spring dress. And honestly, it was spring because it was Mother's Day. And a gentleman who was former Mennonite, who I'm friends with, another married gentleman with a family, they were walking in, and I was walking in with my family, and my friend looked at me and said, "Angela, you're so beautiful this morning." And you just look beautiful. Like that's just it's just kind of like, good morning, good to see you too. And I was like, thank you, but it threw me off. And you'll see soon why. Yeah. I was taught to, from little girl up, you don't talk to the opposite sex when you're married, or when you're single, let alone married, right?
Yeah, right.
And a married man just said that, acknowledged that it was beautiful on Mother's Day morning, and it meant the world. Yeah. And this is years after deconstruction, but it touched me. And I never forgot, and I thought about it for days. I felt so respected.
You felt seen.
I felt acknowledged.
Yes.
And it wasn't weird. And what it did is it brought up so much memories of how weird I felt, because in the culture I came from, that would have been considered so suggestive and twisted. And I don't know, but you just, anything to do with the opposite sex was basically the road towards getting in bed with them. And that's just that's just the way we were raised. And I suddenly remembered, like, growing up, like, I remember when I was a teenager going past the preachers after they would preach the message.
Did you have to shake hands? Yes!
Yeah. Did you do that? So, okay, let's just dive right in. After he preaches sermon, okay, this is when I'm a teenage Mennonite girl. Bishop man preaches a sermon. After church, the bishop and whoever, the deacon, they stand at the end of the aisle, and when you leave, you shake their hand.
Right.
And I was a teenager, and I remember doing that, and the aversion of eyes, like they would avert their eyes. So I would shake their hand, but they would look away.
Yeah.
And I just remember,
how did
like,
that make you
feeling, I felt dirty.
Yeah.
I felt,
did you feel
unacknowledged? I felt like, oh, I must be a temptation to him. And I'm a teenager. Yeah. But that was just normal. Yeah. But that was how it was. Like, if you go to a family gathering and, you cannot talk to the men. You cannot talk to even the other men. And if you're caught doing so, it's the gossip spreads.
Oh, yeah.
that there could be something going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt really, I feel like, honestly, it's vulnerable, but I felt really avoided. Their avoidance, I felt like the men avoided me because I was beautiful. And I think that I learned really negative unspoken language about who I was as a woman from that avoidance.
Yeah.
Because if boys were taught to bounce their eyes from beauty, what did it teach us? So I was used to that. It was just like, they're going to bounce their eyes. It's awkward.
Mm-hmm.
You feel erased. And back to the story of the Sunday morning, I honest to God, I think it was the first time as a married woman, a man said, I love you, your beautiful dress, like you're beautiful, whatever it was. It was just acknowledgement of like Mother's Day beauty that day. And it completely threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
And
we're not used to that.
No, I wasn't used to it. I'd never heard that before. And then I thought, I think I would feel so much more comfortable around men if I heard more of that.
I love that you brought that up.
Tell me what this feels to like. How does this impact you? How did this impact you growing up? Like with the avoidance and
I think that whenever I feel safe, I want to be seen. For as a whole person, not just body and beauty, but my personality and all that stuff. And in our culture, we weren't really allowed to be seen at all because of the whole bounce your eyes thing, because of the whole
bounce your eyes,
the idea that women are evil and dangerous and our bodies are a temptation. And so when I talk about attraction and noticing beauty is such a huge thing, and it's not the same as lust, because you can notice a woman, you can notice a person and say, wow, they're really beautiful, without it meaning that you want to sleep with them, or that without going into the whole lust thing. And in our culture, those two things were synonymous.
And that's the problem.
And this is where guys carry so much shame.
It's just so insane.
Like, you're allowed to see a beautiful woman and be like, damn, she's really pretty.
Absolutely.
Without it meaning
you are completely deceiving yourself to avoid them and act like you don't care. That you to deprive yourself of that natural. I mean, let's face it, you can't miss it.
No, like,
attraction is attraction. You cannot bury it.
If you try, you end up being somebody who is just dead on the inside. Yeah. And there's a lot of people in our culture who are dead on the inside.
It breaks my soul. Like, it really breaks my heart to think about the impact that these teachings have on the individual personhood.
And like, I personally know what it's like to go to town or whatever, like different places. And, you know, sometimes that you just know that somebody's like, dang, she looks good today. Right.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It does not make me feel gross or objectified, unless obviously you can kind of tell when someone looks at you and they objectify you versus when they don't.
Absolutely.
When they notice just your beauty or your personality, or they just see you and they're like, wow, she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
That feels different than someone who's objectifying you. And so, like, I want men and women, because lust is not a man problem, but both of us, can we please notice beauty? Like, it's what we were made to do. We were made to notice
and say it.
Yeah, it's okay to say it too.
Personally, I feel so much more comfortable just to hear the acknowledgement than have that weird averting and pretending.
Can we talk about how we feel going back into Mennonite culture after we left?
Like, that's what I was bringing up. Like,
okay, we need to
do not bounce your eyes from me. I flat out want to say, like, please don't.
Yeah. So, like, when you think
that
about,
is so awkward.
It is super awkward.
It makes me want to, like, say something to break the tension.
How is it for you going back into Mennonite culture, like, after being out? Like,
yeah.
For myself,
what's
I
it like?
Stress about what I'm going to wear. That's the only time I stress about what I'm going to wear.
To be very honest, like ever since I started wearing jeans, right?
Yeah.
Like I wear, whatever the hell I want now.
Right.
And I don't think twice.
Right.
I just put on my clothes and get about my day.
Right.
My hair's a flying, and then I'm used
Right.
to that now.
Right.
But of course, we used to wear our bonnets and things, and our
Yeah.
coverings and our veilings, whatever you want to call it. There's different ones in each different individual community. The only time I think about my booty is when I'm in the culture of the
Yep.
Mennonites again. And I'm not gonna lie, if I'm going to be going to a family gathering or anywhere where I know there will be Mennonites, it is the only time I think about my body parts.
Yeah.
And I can't not remember that, because it's like the presence of that culture. You already know what they're looking for.
You already know what they're going to say.
You know what they're looking for.
Like, you know what
know
they're
what's
going to
thought,
say.
you know what's said.
Yeah.
And it's the only time I'm like, oops, is it jiggling today?
It's like, it's honestly kind of, it's a mind fuck in some ways.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that if I try to assimilate into their culture a little bit and try not to stand out, I have more people talk to me, including men, like creepy almost.
Yeah.
If I wear something I'm confident, comfortable, and cute in, then they bounce their eyes.
They avert their eyes.
And honestly, because that culture is so suppressed sexually, and there's been so much abuse personally for me in that culture, that feels safer.
Okay.
Than trying to fit in, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. It's like, well, that takes care of that.
Yeah.
They can't look at me now.
Dressed to kill, and somehow everything
It automatically takes care of any unnecessary conversations, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we talked about attraction and how that attraction is not lust, but I think sometimes we're also taught that arousal is lust when it's really not.
Wow.
So I think especially in the context of for boys, just because you get an erection doesn't necessarily mean that you are lusting.
Absolutely.
Right? Because arousal can happen biologically without necessarily it being a mind thing.
Absolutely.
A choice. And so I think that's another piece of this puzzle that needs to be deconstructed for people coming out of purity culture.
Wow.
That, that's not the same thing.
Right.
You can be attracted to somebody. You can be, there can even be arousal, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's lust. That's a whole different section.
Yeah.
And along with that, you can also be aroused and it not be consensual, because arousal does not equal consent.
Tell us a little bit more about that with the consent.
So I think about this just because I've had to, in my brain, I've had to put things in different boxes due to how the abuse happened to me. And I think for a lot of us who've been sexually abused, some of us have carried a lot of shame, because not only was there fear and anxiety and terror and confusion, there was also this thing of sexual arousal while we were being abused, which is a biological response to sexual stimuli. It's just how it is. And so, again, arousal can happen without consent, and just because arousal is happening does not mean there's consent.
Wow, that
and
was
we
so good.
really need to unravel that.
Yes,
sometimes in our own stories.
Absolutely. I feel that was so important to be said for survivors of sexual abuse, both male and female.
Yes.
That was so good, Anne. Is there anything more, just along those lines that you can think of, just in your own experience that, oh, if only I would have known, only if only someone would have, defined that. Just is incredibly, it's such a gift to be able to be relieved of responsibility that we often carry when we just didn't have anybody bridge the gap for us as kids.
Yeah, so I think about it in two different ways here, because I hear from survivors who feel like they can't say it was abuse because they were aroused.
Mm.
And I want to say that is not how it works.
Wow.
Just because you were aroused does not mean it wasn't abuse.
Wow.
I also think that on the flip side of that, sometimes, especially for men and boys, they would feel like, if they saw a beautiful woman and then, were aroused by that meant they were lusting. And that's not true either. So I think, like, in both incidents, we need to understand that just because there's arousal does not mean there's consent, does not mean that there's lust.
Right.
And that's two different things, and we can't mix them up.
Wow. I love that clarity. Again, there's just so much shame around black and white labeling. And I feel that in our specific religious cultures, hyper-religious communities, there's so much labeling and shaming, and black and white thinking really does lead to a lot of that. And it doesn't give a lot of room for the natural individuality, which is what we're really trying to bring to the conversation today, and relieve ourselves of so much shame that was
wasn't ours to carry.
No.
Was not ours to carry at all.
And we know our hearts. And I think what really breaks my heart is in our culture specifically, there's so much gaslighting and projection and labeling and shame of like, that's lust, that's sin, that's fornication.
Right.
The amount of crazy making that causes, you feel some of these beliefs are so terrorizing that you really feel guilty to be human.
Yeah.
In short, there's so much guilt and shame for just being human. And then so many of us suppress that humanity.
Yes.
And the behaviors out of that suppression doesn't reflect our authentic self.
Right.
And it also breaks my heart, so much shame and pain that comes with our coping. So many of us have coping mechanisms, and that goes on and on from this suppression of our core authentic self.
Right.
And then there's so much shame and judgment around that in the church. And I'm thinking, we are only coping with what tools we have to survive this experience of not being permitted to be human.
Right.
And then we add shame on the coping mechanisms.
Right.
But we're coping because we're not allowed to be authentic. Ain't that crazy?
It's like, no matter how you put it, you are stuck. Like, you're stuck. And it's my heart just breaks. Like, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to be stuck in that cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, like, there is a way out.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to be there. And some of the untangling is then this thing of, like, untangling attraction, untangling what lust is and what it's not.
Yeah.
And what consent is and what it's not. And also, along with consent, like, if you are afraid to say no, then it's not consent.
This is good. Yeah.
If you are afraid of repercussions if you say no,
right,
then it's not consent.
That's right. Because
consent is a choice, and whereas arousal is psychological and biological.
Yeah. That's really good. I'm so glad you added that. We often don't talk about that part where consent isn't just verbal. And a lot of us who've been coerced and have been through a lot of like the covert abuse, a lot of things aren't necessarily said. And a lot of us know what we should or shouldn't say.
Right.
Because we know the consequences before we speak.
Right.
And that's where there's a lot of misunderstanding with sex abuse.
For sure.
Because the other thing is we could dive into, like, the natural response to harm is to freeze and to go silent. And on top of, that's just a natural trauma response. But on top of that, like, in our culture, like, we already know we've got to be pretty quiet. Speak up for ourselves is out of our place.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
Especially
reasons.
As women.
Yes.
Especially as women.
Yes. And I think that we need to free ourselves of the guilt and shame we have on those times where we didn't say anything and we wanted to, but we couldn't.
Yeah.
We weren't safe to.
Well, also, sometimes we didn't even have language for them.
That's
Because
another
again, like if
aspect.
you don't talk about sex at all, I mean, I had no language for what happened to me.
Hmm.
There was no language for that. And I know that's how it is for a lot of people, right? There's so many people who have there's no language.
So let's talk about that for a little. That's really important. And that goes back to kind of like the ignorance is bliss when we
Right.
started the conversation. Like, we have no language for our body anatomy. So how on earth are we going to have language for experiences later?
How are we going to even have language for what happened to us? And I think that for people who become adults, right? We become adults and we look back and then we learn that abuse is a lot broader of a term.
Mm.
There's a lot underneath that umbrella term.
Mm.
And all of a sudden we're like, oh, I was abused.
Mm.
Because we didn't have any words or language for it.
Absolutely.
What happened.
Yeah. So education is so important, and you just reflected that through your experience of not having it and how negative that is. And you know, there's so much fear of these conversations in the culture that I grew up in. There was so much fear of saying it, but in reality, I have a quote here I want to read. Education isn't corruption, it's safety.
Yeah.
And you know, as a mom of 2 little boys, it's just I have experienced to be so empowering to educate my sons on their bodies and their male natural agency, and to just see them thriving in the safety and the agency is just incredible to me. But it's ironic because in reality, I know growing up, there was this idea that these projected fear-based ideas, this terror of our sexuality was supposed to be protection.
Right.
And in reality, education is the agency that protects us of so much.
Fear doesn't really protect us.
No.
It just makes us, it just kind of like tamps down, it suppresses us as people, but it also creates a lot of shame too. Not only for us, but we can all project that shame as well, which I feel like purity culture is just a projection of shame.
I feel like
the whole thing.
Right. Again, a lot of the stuff that we learned growing up in this community was more of a projection of shame and terror without even words being spoken. You knew what was expected of you.
And how much of the stuff that was said as far as like modesty was just a projection of somebody's like attraction or what they liked onto people. Like, you ever think about that?
Oh, yes. And if you were, you know, back to that thread that was on Facebook of survivors sharing their experiences of things they were told, it was honestly, a lot of it was just a bunch of fetishes that someone had, and then it became the community like, okay, this brought up something I wanted to say.
Go ahead.
Oh, there's so many. This is why this conversation goes on. But this is an example. I grew up as a teenager and someone said that oral sex was from the devil.
Oh my gosh.
And dude, like, I didn't know.
No.
I'm a teenager. And again, there's a lot of things we could do. But I was terrified.
Yeah.
At that. Like, when you got adults telling you, you know, this is from the devil, this is from Satan, this is the road to hell. Like, what?
It's about that about masturbation too, right?
Yes. Like, again, and these things are set. Like, they are set. Like, you masturbating
premarital counseling talks about shit like this.
Yes, in premarital counseling, they'll pretty much tell couples what to do, not what not to do, and what's right and what's wrong. That is abuse. It's out of line.
Yes.
That is not agency and individuality. And I don't know what I was going to say about that, but it took me some time to untangle it after I was told that.
Yeah.
But later, you know, looking back, like what you just said, in reality, someone had a really difficult experience and called it the devil, and that was projected onto me as this is an act of wrong. When in reality, in consent, in a relationship with conversation, in a committed relationship, you can do what the hell you want, and it's no one's business.
Exactly.
And no one's right to tell you what's right or wrong. That is
Right.
your body and your relationship connection. I cannot believe the things that our church told us we could do or not do with our bodies. I can't believe it.
It's again, it's not agency. And the crazy part is that they're willing to say that stuff is wrong and evil, but they're not willing to take care of actual abuse.
Isn't that insane? You know, with so much good, natural goodness was deemed to be evil.
Right.
And then we have a culture of so much sexual abuse and harm and predators being protected.
Yes.
And children suffering. And that's not that's not even in the conversation.
Right.
That's a problem.
It is. It really is. It really is. And there's so much, again, like you said, there's so much agency. It's no one else's business. What a married couple, not even married, but just committed relationships.
Right.
2 adults.
Yeah.
Consenting. Again, consent. Consent wasn't taught at all. It wasn't even a word on my radar.
We couldn't even have the conversations.
No, consent wasn't even a word.
Wow.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So knowing and understanding, and again, just like untangling all this stuff for me personally has helped me so much.
Yeah.
Personally.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just wish that for more people.
Right.
I wish that for less shame. More agency.
Yeah.
More freedom.
Clarity is so empowering.
Absolutely.
And conversations, it's incredible the impact of a conversation, you know?
Absolutely.
The conversations that need to be had, again, the fear of these conversations was huge. And, you know, the relief of being able to have the conversation.
Yes.
It's like, no way. Like, I wish I would have had that, been told that 25 years ago. It would have saved me from so much pain. And that, you know, that's why, like, have the conversations with your kids.
Yes.
They deserve it.
100%.
I think we overthink it. So many people would say, well, how do I approach this with my kids? I'm like,
normal. Like you would tell them about
absolutely
how apples grow on trees or something. You know what I mean? Like just normal stuff.
And I really think that it starts with our own view of ourselves. Like so many times we're like fear-based. Like I don't know how to have the conversation with my child. But you know, what about like my view of my sexuality as a mom and as a female? Like my view of myself and my discovery of that really is what contagiously is reflected.
Yes.
So I always just like really when I feel fear come up around any of the stuff from my past, I really like to reflect on like what was my view and work on my own, because that just frees my kids up of it.
Oh,
you know,
100%.
Because they're just like sponges.
Yes.
And I know my son asked me one day something about the female anatomy, and I just remember that day like feeling so happy because like he was so completely comfortable to just ask me about the female sexuality. There was no shame, no fear. I got to talk to him, and I know it was just very healing and empowering.
Yes.
Because again, growing up, you could never dare ask a question.
No.
Do you want me? Because pregnancy was considered a shame. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
What was that like?
You had to hide it until it was no longer able to be hid.
Yeah, it was a secret.
So 3 months, pretty much.
Depending on
weren't
the
allowed
group,
to really talk. Yeah,
secretive.
oh yeah. And then, you know, you weren't even really allowed to. It felt to me like I wasn't even allowed to celebrate life.
I know. Yeah, because that is a celebration of life.
Yeah.
And we could not talk about it because
No.
there was so much shame. And I know, like, getting, it kind of goes along with, like, getting your period as a young girl.
That too.
A lot of my acquaintances were not given any education on what that looked like. And, you know, there was certain times that, like, a girl would get her period and she thought she was dying of cancer because she didn't know why she was bleeding.
Yeah.
Because there was never a conversation of education prior, and the terror of that.
Yeah.
And to me, that's so preventable. All we need to do is have the conversation.
Right.
It's not a shameful conversation. It's beautiful, empowering
Right.
conversation to have with our girls on their female power and their beauty and what they're capable of.
Yes,
as
absolutely. It's funny
a mother.
It's funny how kids, like, they ask questions, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that I feel like I did not realize how much kids pick up on so young.
Yeah.
And you have to start young when they ask questions about bodies and about reproduction and stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to come way, way sooner than what you think.
Yeah.
And it's so much better to be honest about those things, and in a way that it's, like, very, like you're having a normal supper time conversation, okay?
Yeah.
Like, just don't, it doesn't have to be awkward, you know? This is normal stuff.
Yeah.
And it does not need to be awkward. You don't have to make it that way. If it's awkward,
Yeah.
I feel like if it's awkward, it's because maybe I haven't done the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And guys, it happens sooner than what you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I always, like, hope, like, I can kind of have the conversations and connection with my kids around things before it happens in their peers, because it's happening all around, conversations, and then the myths of sex and all the you know, your kids go to school and around other kids, and the conversations are happening. People have, you know, there's a lot of terms for body anatomy that are used, and I really want my kids to know the appropriate
proper
terms
names
for their body parts, because there's something empowering with that that's really important.
Yeah.
And
100%.
the confidence that it brings the child to know the names for their body parts, and the normalizing of that, I think, is an agency that is important. Sending them out in the world and going to school and just, you know, doing life, that's confidence boosting.
Yes.
Because the conversations are happening out there.
Well,
we don't need to be afraid of them.
No. And the thing of it is, like, I also think there's this idea that I've gotten this idea before, that people said that they were scared to have their kids around my kids because I was talking so much about abuse, so they were afraid that that was, like, going to hurt their kids or my kids. And I'm just like, no, that's not really how it works. Because when you educate children about a topic like this, you're actually protecting them.
Absolutely.
And whenever you are able to tell them about things like this, when they come ask you a question and you're able to, like, talk about that with them, they're more apt to come back and talk to you again when they have more things that they have questions about.
I love that.
And so, like, it's this,
they know that it's safe.
Exactly. We didn't have that.
They just know they can go to mom or dad and
ask
have
questions.
that conversation.
I was not okay with doing that. I didn't have that kind of a relationship.
Right. Yeah, and it's really
I was
sad.
handed a book.
Yeah, we were handed little books on.
I looked in the encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Like, tried. It was marked out.
How lonely to be just trying to figure it out as a kid on your own when there's so much hush hush. Yeah. Wow. So, like, today we're talking a lot about the impact of purity culture and the impact and the conditioning from kid up.
Right.
And that really directly bleeds into marriage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a lot we want to talk about with that, because there's so much, but I think we're going to save, like, the marriage aspect and the impact for some future episodes.
Yeah.
Really good stuff for that.
Well, it's easier to dive into it, you know, with a bigger time.
Yeah. We need
more time to dive into something like that.
We need another whole hour or two for that. So we're going to really just save the marital part and the the impact of that for a future episode. But we do want to let you know that that is coming for those of you who want to hear more about marriage and the impacts that are so important. We have a lot coming. So there was a lot of comments that came in regards to marriage.
Yes.
And what was the one?
Well, just that, like, things like, kind of sex is more for men.
Yeah.
And if you are a good wife and you give him what he wants, then he won't cheat on you. Like, all of that stuff.
Those were the ones
those are,
yep.
That needs a whole nother episode by itself.
The myths of sex
Yes.
and just how that impacts you going into marriage if you haven't had that appropriate education and understanding. And it can be so, a lot of us have learned the hard way, figuring everything out later. And so we want to talk about that on another episode. But we've got your comments, and we have that conversation coming. All right. I know you had some really good quotes and some good insights to go over here at the end. So what's some of the things that you wanted to mention?
Well, I think that, like, in regards to purity culture and men, understanding how purity culture shapes somebody does not necessarily mean that there's not accountability. Because compassion and accountability can and should coexist. And so, but I think it gives me compassion for purity culture, people who've grown up in purity culture, men and women both, because there's just so much shame. And I think that healing happens only when we are able to kind of name it, be more curious about that shame. That's when healing can happen. It's like a little snake that slithers away.
Yeah.
Right? So
I hear you mentioning how profound and important acknowledgement is.
Yes.
And with that comes accountability.
Absolutely.
Which is love.
Yeah.
And when we love each other well, we do hold the other to a standard of accountability that is basically like really reflecting agency.
Yeah.
And it's not a threat.
No.
Isn't that something?
And I think that, when I feel seen, I'm more able to examine my belief system and then be more accountable. And I think that's the same way for men. I want people to feel seen. But in that seeing, there's also comes accountability. There also comes this, reflection where you self-reflect and this curiousness surrounding that. I just want to say, like, we are more than stereotypes, both men and women, right? Yeah. We are humans, but we're more than stereotypes. And I think that for men especially, there's been a lot of stereotypes. They're kind of, minimized to stereotypes and urges. And that's not fair, just like girls are minimized to body parts, right? It's not fair. Neither is humanizing, right? It's dehumanizing.
That is so good, Anne. I love that. That's a lot. That's such a good point. And I really love how when we feel seen individually, when we feel seen in our wholeness, we naturally feel safe.
Yeah.
And so to just, wrap that up with that agency of when we're seen in our wholeness and fullness and goodness, and our born goodness individually, that reflects safety naturally, and there's so much good that comes with that.
There is. Like, we are good. Yeah. Our sexuality is good. Our bodies are good. They're not evil.
You have a saying on curiosity. What was you had mentioned earlier?
Oh, hold on, let me find it.
We'll just break here.
Sorry.
We'll wrap up with that, Ian, right?
Yes. Okay, let's wrap up with this one.
Okay. Go ahead when you're ready.
I think that when bodies are treated as dangerous, people lean into fear instead of understanding. And shame doesn't produce integrity. It produces secrecy. And so my passion is that, you can't shame somebody into healthy sexuality. You just can't.
Wow.
Healing begins when curiosity replaces fear.
Wow.
And in this particular subject, be curious. Wow. Be curious about yourself, about how your body responds to certain things. Be curious about what happened to you growing up. Just be curious.
And when you mentioned curiosity and the invitation for that, like I feel safety, like the safety to self-explore and to ask questions and
Absolutely.
to have the mystery of humanity back again. What a gift of agency.
Yeah.
And isn't like for survivors specifically of religious abuse, one of my favorite things is like options.
Yes.
And when you said curiosity, a lot of us have a lot of trauma. Many of us have trauma, and with that comes the feeling of being trapped.
Yes.
And so the opposite of that is like agency, my favorite word, and options. And when you mentioned curiosity, permission to be curious about who you are and your sexuality, your experiences, how they impacted it.
Right.
And the shame that came with it, just acknowledging that. But like when you mentioned curiosity, I just was like, options,
yes,
which is the opposite of the controlled, suppressed environment that we were supposed to stay contained in.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're more than a box.
Yeah.
You're more than boxes. You're more than what they told you were.
Wow. It's good. Thanks for doing this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I love that we were able to do this.
Been good.